So I have here the inner working parts for the breech area of the M1 Garand in 7.62 by 51. Almost identical to the 30-06, but one particular difference, and I'll get to that in a moment. So what we have here is the follower rod. It's stuck into the spring, as you can see. We have the follower arm that will help raise and lower the follower in assembly. We have the pin that holds that in. We have the follower assembly here. And then here we have the operating rod catch. I have the operating rod there. That's identical. I have the trigger assembly here. Here I have the bullet guide that you'll know from the 30-06, but there is this separate piece for 7.62 by 51 that is an adapter. Not sure the formal name. Someone no doubt put it in the comments, and I'll show you how to install that. Everything except for this is identical to the 30-06, but I hadn't seen anything online yet that showed it directly, so thought I would add this. So you can see there is a metal pin, I guess you could call it, that is here pointing to about the 4 o'clock position. If you hold it this way, in order to get it in, you want to turn it so that it is approximately the 3 o'clock position, and then you want to slide it in like that, and you'll find that it goes all the way back and all the way forward and closes as it is supposed to. That is step one. So where I start with this is with the bullet guide, and you'll see right here that there are a couple of little slots. It's the same on the other side. You're going to take this piece, which is the bullet guide again, and you can see a little arm there, and we're going to slide those into these little slots here. You're going to find that you have to pull these two arms apart a little bit. It's easy to do. You don't have to use much force at all. And you're going to put this with that little arm or nose, whatever you want to call it, pointed forward on the upper side. So I'll put that in. I need 2 hands to do it, so I'll do it off camera. Here is the bullet guide that I mentioned earlier. It's just being held in here by the tension of the arms here. This is the one place where it is now different than the 30-06 version. This is an adapter, I'll call it. I'm not sure what the exact word is. You can see this little flange here. It is going to go obviously with the round guide part for the 308 or 7.62 by 51 on the bottom, and we're just going to sit it there, and it is going to fit flush with everything. It's designed so that it will be held by this one flange on this side here in place, and you need to be able to close this fully around that piece, and that's all that holds it in there. And without that, your cartridges aren't going to work in this firearm. Here is the operating rod catch. You'll see those holes there. It's important to remember where those are, because in a moment we're going to have to make sure they line up. And you can see this articulated piece here that is a bit on a joint. It's important that you get that set up the proper way in order for the bolt to function properly in a moment. As we look at the rifle turned upside down, this little arm here will be on the right hand side. You cannot possibly put it in backwards. It was brilliantly designed that way, and it will just slide in. Make sure the holes line up with the holes on the side here of the assembly, because the pin is going to have to go through all of that. And there it is installed, as you can see. This next part is trickier to film one-handed than it is actually to do. What you have here is the follower assembly. This is what will eventually hold the cartridges in line and move them up as they need to be moved up. So you want this fin on what will eventually be the top once the rifle is situated in the right direction. At the moment, it is upside down. So I will take these two arms that you can see and slide them into that area like that. At the moment, it slid down, and that is because I'm unable to hold it at the same time as holding the follower catch rod. This is the follower catch rod. You see those two holes there. That should tell you that that goes down and that pin is going to go through it, where we saw a couple of holes in a couple of other parts earlier. You'll see those two little arms sticking out there. Those will fit inside the follower assembly. To do that, you twist this so that it fits through here, and you get it oriented the right direction. Not great lighting there, but you should be able to see it. And that will slide in, I managed to do it with one hand, to the follower assembly. And that is going to move up and down, and that is the way the cartridges move up and down as one of them is shot out at a time, and there'll be a spring that pushes it further up each time. Now, the holes, and I'm not going to be able to show you this now, that were on the bottom part of this I talked earlier, are now going to line up with the other holes down there, and I'm going to slide the pin through it. So I've aligned these things here. It takes a little jiggling every once in a while. You can see here that I've left the pin partially out so you can see where it is. So it is now passing through these outer arms. It's passing through the catch for the operating rod here, and it is passing through the follower arm that I just inserted that is attached to the follower assembly. So I will just now push that clear through. Hopefully it goes. I need to use another hand to just jiggle the far side a little bit, and then it will be completely through. One thing to catch when you are setting the operating rod catch up is this little piece here that moves back and forth needs to be pointing perpendicular towards the ground or to the ceiling, depending if you've got it turned upside down or right. It needs to have lifted this piece so that eventually the operating rod here is able to travel underneath it. So if this is more or less flush with the barrel, then you're going to have a problem. So again, make sure that it is pointed perpendicular so that it is in fact holding up the operating rod catch. So here you can see everything set up. You can see the adapter right here, which is the big difference between the 30-06. You can see the bullet guide that's in place here. You can see the operating rod catch. You can see the pin that is through there. And hopefully here, with better lighting now, you will be able to see how this works. Just pull it up. You can see those two arms in there that are holding the follower assembly so that it can slide up and down. And so it should go fairly freely there, up and down a certain distance. So that is where we are to this point. So I've installed the operating rod. I've got the bolt pretty much all the way to the back. You'll see this little notch here that will allow you to catch this piece right here, and you will insert this part of the bolt into this hood here, and once you're able to catch it and move it all the way forward and all the way back with the guide here remaining in the grooves, you know that you'll have it set up straight. You do want to probably have it on its side because the follower mechanism, if you put it vertically, will probably fall here and block the passage of the bolt, and you'll wonder why it isn't working. So I put it on its side, I slide it down there, and that's how I make sure that that works. Just going to do this off camera. I'm just going to attach this now off camera because it requires two hands. So it's just a matter of sliding that on, and now you can see it will go the whole direction back and forth. Again, if I push this here, you'll see it blocks, and so if you're wondering if you're holding it vertically why it's not working, that may well be the issue. So we're getting close to being done here. You can see the following rod arm. That's this piece moving up. And if you see the two little sections there, flanges I guess you might call them, at the elbow of this following arm, I am going to attach the follower rod to that, which is going to have the spring that is then going to go into the operating rod. And that's what actually keeps tension on the cartridges as they keep getting pushed up after you fire successive cartridges. And I will do that in a moment. So I've got the spring in the operating rod, and you'll see the direction that I have put the rod here so that the curve is going up. I'm going to take these teeth and I'm going to put them around the two flanges of the follower arm that I showed you just a minute or two ago. I'm going to have to do this off camera because it takes two hands, but I'll show you when I get back. You should be able to see here those teeth that I talked about just sitting on the flange. It is nothing but the tension of the spring that is holding that there. You want to be careful because you're going to be standing right behind it. If it goes, it's going to come flying back at you. Wear eye protection. You might want to wear a mouth guard because this flying out at high speed is going to break a tooth if it hits it. But if you're careful and you use two hands, you should be good. It just again slides out of there and holds on to the flanges in there. Now we're ready to put the stock back on and the trigger guard or the trigger mechanism. So we're ready to put the stock on now. Testament to the precision with which these things were manufactured. It pretty much just slides right on like that. And then there is one last step that I will show in a moment. So the trigger mechanism, which is one big piece, unless you're foolish enough to take it apart, just presses in there. You do have to lift this forward. It can take a little bit of effort from time to time, but generally speaking, it's pretty straightforward. Just make sure these things are all lined up. Make sure that that is pushed forward, that you've pushed it all the way in. And then what you're going to do, let's see if I can do this single-handed, is you're going to turn it upside down. Might be easiest here. Push that down, and you're going to push that until it latches. I'm going to have to do that off camera, and I'll come back and show you the racking motion. Off camera, I pulled this towards me. It caught in that latch. And now it is ready to be racked. I've checked to make sure that it's unloaded. I will try to not give myself M1 Garand thumb or finger or worse by releasing this. I'm going to release it off camera. So I've released it, and you can see there it is. Again, there's the spacer that makes this different from the 30-06 version. And there we have how to reassemble your M1 Garand in 7.62 by 51.